Starting when?
So you say you were unaware, literally unaware of what Coach Jones was asking for until this last couple of weeks?
I'm not sure what you're referring to exactly, but in July of this year, Herman came forward to the regents with a proposal that was continuing something he'd started in March to widen the salary bands that would govern negotiations with coaches, so that we could continue to pay our coaches market value. And in July, that was done with football coaches. So at that point, it would have been possible to make an offer to coach that would have been within those bands, without having to go back to the regents further. I think there were some minor discussions in August, but once we got close to the season, I think both sides said, let's just do this after the season's done. Now, my response to you begs the question of, well, what about at the end of last season? Clearly, bringing anything forward would have required an exception to then existing board policy, but nothing was brought forward from Herman through then Chancellor Denise Conan, and so.
I think it was 2 years ago when Herman presented a plan to the Board of Regents to raise a whole lot of money for capital improvements. Do you know, did you monitor that at all? Do you know how much has been raised for that?
Well, we're in the middle of a capital campaign, as you know, and we've had a good result. We're aiming for $250 million. We've raised over $200 million with 18 months to go. We might be able to hit the 250 by the end of this year. I don't have the figures in front of me on exactly how much of that has been focused on athletics, but that is an area where I think we can do better.
Given the
Certainly.
timing of all this, how difficult will it be to actually get a new head coach in before the recruiting process is over, or before it's too late to pinch into that?
Well, it's a challenge, no question.
Would you consider a combination of AD and football coach?
You know, let me ask Virginia to speak to that a bit, because she has some experience with that in her when she was at the University of Wisconsin as the Vice Chancellor for Research.
My initial response is that typically those are separate positions in most universities, and I kind of favor that approach, but it certainly has worked in other places, but that would be my response to that.
Given the emergency situation, would you be more inclined to consider that?
We're looking at all options, and we'll try to get more together by tomorrow.
And you know, Ferd, I think it's not a question that you can answer in the abstract. It depends on the individual in question. Some individuals have both skill sets, and other individuals don't.
Have you talked to anyone in that regard yet?
I have not. I don't know if the Chancellor has.
No, not with regard to that at this point.
With what you were ready to pay Mr. Jones to stay, is that safe to assume you're ready to pay that to a potential replacement?
Well, there's only one June Jones.
What's the salary range you would be prepared to pay an incoming coach?
I think it depends on who we're talking to.
Can you go about 1.5 for an incoming coach?
I really think it depends on who we're talking to.
Do you see acquiring the monies necessary to refurbish the entire campus to be primarily a function of political will?
Well, that, Bobby, is an out-of-the-box question. It's certainly partly a function of political will, our will internally, and will externally with the legislature and the executive. It's not just about money, as I indicated earlier. And as the Chancellor has said, this is a jewel of a campus intellectually, but it is badly tarnished, and we need to get on the case, and it's her highest priority. So I think if you're looking at the people seated in front of you, we've got the will.
Certainly, excuse me.
Please go ahead.
Certainly takes our legislature as well, but also our private members of our community. Everybody needs to step forward to help us move this agenda, in my view.
But do you need, I guess the follow-up is, do you need to change the legislator's sense of priority regarding UH?
You know, if you compare our legislature in the late 80s, they were funding this university fully 50% better than the typical public university. That's not widely appreciated. In the 90s, of course, their support fell off dramatically. But across the nation, the support for higher education also declined. It's now the case that our legislature still funds this university a little bit better than the average public university nationally, although that average has gotten a lot lower in the last 15 years. What's happened in some other schools, in Michigan's, Colorado's, where the state support numbers are 8% or 15%, is we've had a big step up in tuition and a big step up in private donations. And of course, a big step up in research productivity. And this campus, as the Chancellor will tell you, was a top 25 public research university. So we've done our part, I think, on the research the search front. We're really proud of that. So it's a you've got 4 or 5 different major sources of funds. We've got a successful capital campaign. I think we're on the case, but it is certainly the case that here in the athletics realm, the facilities challenges the spotlight has been on them, and I'm delighted to see the community excited about what happened in the football season, now stepping up and saying, hey, we really do need to do more. That, I think, will have an effect in the political process as well as just directly with us.
I think it'd be positive to have some flexibility to, with this too, but the support is great, and we need some flexibility to be able to move quickly and nimbly into the future.
On the faculty side, the UH Professional Assembly said there are a lot of baby boomers getting ready to retire. The new ones don't have housing. They have a lot of issues in terms of money. What's happening on that front?
If you read my convocation remarks last September, initiatives on faculty housing were one of the 3 things that we were focusing on. I know the chancellors and I are very much engaged in that. We're exploring some creative ways to address those issues, such as perhaps our foundation taking a position in mortgages that were held by our faculty. They're considering that. Some other private organizations do that for their faculty. We've asked for more flexibility to be able to buy housing that comes on the market. A couple of years ago, when Denise Conan was our chancellor, we had a chance to buy a facility here in the Waikiki area that could have been used as faculty housing. It penciled out for us, but we had to wait for the legislature to come into session to execute that deal. So we went back to the legislature and said, next time this happened, we'd like to have that kind of flexibility. And I'm pleased to say, with the leadership of Senator Sakamoto and others, they've given us that flexibility up to the degree of $100 million. So if we have an opportunity, we can pull the trigger. We absolutely agree with you on the demographic challenges we face. It is really hard to know when people are going to retire. Where sometimes people think they're going to retire at 60 and wind up retiring at 70. It's hard to estimate that with any precision, but generally speaking, this is certainly an important issue for us and a challenge for us.
Have you started contacting possible candidates, and will you be a part of that process?
The Chancellor and I will have something to say on that after tomorrow's announcement.
I would add one thing to David's comment about there's an opportunity also to build both housing and retail around the campus, which I think would be very exciting and revitalize the whole area, which would be wonderful.
What will the expectations for accountability and performance going forward for the athletic director?
Just what's in the athletic director's employment agreement. Which is you produce, you get your coaches contracted in a timely fashion, and if you've got a good coach, you make extra attention to make sure that you hold on to them.
What are your expectations and vision for your athletic director and/or your head football coach to interact and work with the legislature in the lobbying capacity or any other capacity?
I'd like to take that up again, Dave, tomorrow, if we could, after the announcement. But generally speaking, all public universities, athletic directors in particular, have to be good at the fundraising piece, just as the dean of the business school is, or the dean of the engineering school. Their job is partly rainmaker. They have to go out and help make some rain, and that's with donors or legislators, whatever.
And part of it is helping each other do our job.
School administrators obviously very tight-lipped and on the defensive in response to the exodus of head coach June Jones. Now, you did hear it, though, from President McClain himself, an admission that the university was, quote, slow to step up. So you can take that for what it's worth. Now, remember, they also said there will be an announcement tomorrow about the future of athletics director Herman Fraser at the University of Hawaii, so stay tuned to that. Also, stay tuned to KGME9 and KGME9.com. We will have a full recap of all the day's happenings, from Coach June Jones leaving to the press conference that just happened and the trickle-down effect as to what will happen from here on out. That's all coming up tonight at 5, 6, and 10. For now, we join our regularly scheduled programming now in progress.